Thank you so much for being on the show. I'm sure you have a lot of stuff going on because the Paralympic Games are right around the corner now. So,
Yeah, it's a little bit busy, but I'm happy to be here. So no problem at all.
so let's start off with like a brief background of how did you come to fall in love with tennis, and like when did you find out about transverse myelitis, and like because I know you initially used to play soccer, so good.
Yeah.
Watson.
So I was a really athletic kid growing up. Like most kids, I was doing all these after school sports. My mom always signed me and my brother up to do I think it was like soccer. Then we had singing or drama or art class or whatever other sports that she signed us up for. And yeah, soccer was just my favorite. So that was what I played all the time. And when I was 10 and a half, I went to soccer practice. And at the end of practice, I was running suicide sprints and my back started to hurt really badly. And cut to like 2 hours later, the pain had increased. My legs felt really heavy. It was really hard to move them. Like they just felt almost like lead. And then I remember them starting to feel like pins and needles, like when your foot falls asleep. And then I remember looking down at my foot, trying to move it, and just nothing was happening. So at that point, I was completely paralyzed. And that was like 2 hours after the initial onset of my back hurting. And like, I wasn't kicked, I wasn't like sick, like nothing kind of made sense as to why this happened. It was just all of a sudden. And both of my parents are doctors. And so they're like, she needs to go to the hospital. So we went to Children's Hospital in San Diego, where I'm from. And they did a lot of MRIs and stuff. And they found out that I got transverse myelitis, which is a really rare autoimmune disease where your immune system just attacks your spine. Like it basically thinks it's like an invader and it starts attacking it. And then your spinal cord swells in response to that. And then all of your nerves that are in your spine can get damaged. And that's what happened to me at like my waistline. But it can happen to anybody, and it can happen at any level of your spine. So it could have happened up near my neck. It could have happened lower. So all things, thought of, like the fact that it was at my waist, it could have been worse. So so then cut to like a couple months after I was in the hospital, my mom was talking to rec therapists and things like that, and because she knew she wanted me to still be really active. And I don't even know that she was having those conversations. I was in my own little world, just trying to figure out what was going on with my life and like who I was going to be. So I'm really thankful that she did all that. But she found out about different camps. So like the first sport that I tried was wheelchair rugby, or some people know it as murder ball. I tried basketball, and then there was a camp for tennis that I went to. And I really wasn't interested. Like I'd never heard of adaptive sports before even trying it. I thought it was only for people who had mental disabilities, because I'd only ever heard about the Special Olympics before. I didn't know anything about the Paralympics, or that there were sports for people with physical disabilities who were still mentally fine. So I was really not wanting to go. And then my mom was like, nope, this is happening. And I'm so thankful, because then once I got to those camps, I just fell in love with it and been playing tennis ever since.
Wow, then that's really incredible of your mom that like she went out there and tried to find you a passion that you could pursue. And it's amazing that like a lot of us look up to you for that reason. The fact that you didn't give up on your dreams and like you actually went ahead and pursued.
Oh,
It's amazing.
thanks.
Awesome. So since all of us consider you as a role model, but who is your role model? Who do you look up to every day?
It sounds really cliche, but probably my mom. She's had a tough life. Like she actually has a lot of autoimmune diseases herself. Like she's got lupus, and she had asthma, and I think she even had a little touch of fibromyalgia. She even had breast cancer at one point when I was in college. So she's been through it. She also raised me and my older brother, Scott, basically as a single parent. So all those things combined, and then also having to, deal with her 10-year-old daughter contracting an autoimmune disease, being paralyzed and all that stuff. And she just handled it like a champ. Like I never saw her be in a position where I couldn't go to her if I needed her. She was always a rock. And her also being a doctor, like when I was sick, like she was able to literally be like my trusted confidant. Like if a doctor told me something, I'd be like, okay, mom, what the heck does that mean? And she would explain it to me. And she like slept at the hospital with me every night, because I was there for like a month. And So I think just the way that she's gone through life inspires me. I know that sounds so cliche because it's like my mom, but I wouldn't have the career I have if it wasn't for her. I would have never tried wheelchair sports because I thought they would be a joke. It's something I'm sad that was my conception at the time, but like most people, like you didn't know about them until just recently, I would think. And then now you're like, wow, it's like a whole world I didn't know about. So I'm really thankful for her, and I hope that I can kind of like emulate her when I become a mom.
That is so amazing. Your mom seems like such a strong woman, and the fact that you had such a great support system at home is truly incredible.
Yeah, she's great. She's like my mom and my dad rolled into one.
So what does tennis mean to you? Like, what are kind of the life lessons that you've learned from the sport? I'm sure a lot of what you've learned has been applicable in like every aspect of your life now, right?
Totally. Tennis is one of those interesting sports in that because it's individual, I feel like it forces you to be a lot more introspective, and like you have to learn more about yourself. So like you have to learn to be self-reliant, because when you play tennis, you're out there by yourself. So if problems come up, you can't just be like, oh my gosh, hold on, like let me go talk to someone and we'll troubleshoot and I'll come back. Like you have to be able to problem solve on the fly, be okay with the fact that things might not always go your way, but then also be able to like rise to the challenge when like big opportunities do come your way too. And that's totally synonymous for life, right? Like there's always moments where there's going to be a roadblock and you have to figure out a way either around the roadblock, over the roadblock, through it, whatever. But you're going to have to be able to do some things on your own. You don't always have people in your ear telling you what to do. So tennis has been great in terms of that. It's made me learn to trust myself and how to set goals and work on my own. Because again, it's an individual sport. So if I don't put the work in, I don't see the results. So that's been very motivating for me. But I think also tennis, just like it came into my life at a time when I really needed it. Like as a 10-year-old who had recently like contracted a disability or an illness, so to speak, like I was very lost. And, all of a sudden half my body didn't work. And there was like no doctors, even still, there's so little research on transverse myelitis. They don't know why it happened to me. So I still don't know that. So that was a really hard thing for me to, I guess, like wrap my head around, especially for a 10-year-old. Like it's hard now and I'm 30, so it'd be hard as a 10-year-old. So I think tennis like literally allowed me to have an escape from what was going on in my life. And then it also allowed me to reach other people that were like me. I got to travel the world. I got to do so many different things that wouldn't have happened without it. So I think it's an amazing sport.
That is amazing. So what exactly, like in terms of your hobbies, what else do you enjoy? Because we know that you're super athletic and you play tennis, but what else do you do in your free time?
I need to come up with a better answer for this question because I do get asked it and I feel like I never have a good answer. So I'm so busy that a lot of times when I do have free time, I love doing nothing. Like you will find me on my couch watching Netflix or Hulu or just binge watching reality TV shows. But then like in terms of other hobbies, I'm the same as everyone else. I love seeing my friends. I love seeing my family, just going and hanging out with them. I do also really like baking. Baking is a passion of mine, and cooking. Those are things that I try to do as often as I can, but not something I'm like a primo, chef or anything, but I'm pretty good. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just like everyone else, but probably a little more lazy than most when I have a free day.
I mean, it's completely fine to be lazy. You can't even call that lazy. You need recovery after training so hard.
Right, it's recovery. It's not laziness. It's recovery.
Exactly. That's yeah. So you mentioned shows, but like just a fun question. What's your favorite show out there?
Oh my gosh. I like literally everything. So like I like a reality show like Real Housewives. I like drama shows like my boyfriend and I just finished watching Mayor of Eastwood? It was on HBO. It's so good. It's really? It's like a thriller type of show where it's like someone gets murdered and she has to figure out who did it and stuff. It's so good. So I like shows like that. I'll watch literally anything, to be honest. So I don't have like one type. Then like The Office is one of my favorite shows. So I'm all over the place.
I love The Office.
That's my favorite show. I could watch that again and again and again.
So the next question I had was, I was watching one of your interviews and I remember you mentioning something about like setting up a mini tennis court in your living room. Yeah. What was that all about? That seems super cool.
Yeah. So when I first moved here to Florida, it's been a little over a year now, but when I first moved here, I shared a house with two of my friends who are also tennis Paralympians. One was Natalia, and she's from Brazil. And then my other was Mackenzie, who's an American. And so we all were like, oh, well, we can't play tennis right now because of COVID. And we were in lockdown together. And they just moved to this house. So like one part of our house, or I guess it was like a living room. It was like a second living room. I'm not really sure. It was a weird room that didn't have much furniture in it, and there was a lot of space. And we were like, we should get like blue tape, like that painter's tape, and then make like a mini tennis court, because we had like these mini tennis rackets that we could use. So we literally did that and then just kind of played around. Like it wasn't like good tennis or anything, but it was just something fun for us to do. So we had that up for like 2 or 3 weeks during the initial lockdown, which was really fun.
That does sound fun. If my parents allowed, I would set up a tennis court.
Try it.
Now let's talk about the Paralympic Games that are coming up. What are kind of your expectations going into like Tokyo, and what are you looking to get out of it?
Expectations. I always try to not to have like crazy expectations on myself, just because tennis is one of those sports that you can have so many different upsets. You know, like you watch like any of the slams and all of a sudden, you know, Halep loses first round, or maybe like Federer is not the greatest example because he's maybe not having the greatest time right now, but you know, he could go out second round, third round or something. So I think just by nature of tennis being kind of unpredictable and really variable depending on who shows up as the better player that day, I try not to say like, well, I'm going to get to this round or whatever, but I can say that like, I'm really happy with where my game is at now. Like I've worked really hard on it since I moved here to train full time in Orlando, and that if I play the way I know I can play, then I think a medal is possible for me. But saying that, like a lot of the girls that are going, or women, I should say, they're all really talented. Like every single person going has a good forehand, has a good backhand, has a good serve. So it really comes down to who shows up and is more mentally prepared on that day. And I hope it's me.
That's a perfect answer. That makes sense. You put in the work and now you just go out there and execute, right?
Yeah, got to do it.
That makes sense. And like another thing is, a lot of us are going to be cheering you on from our home. So if that motivates you, you're going to do great.
That totally motivates me. Yeah, like it sucks that like our family and friends can't go this year. Like my family had bought tickets and everything before COVID, because they're like, we're going to have to buy tickets now and all that stuff. And they like rented an Airbnb and they had tickets for all the different events. And so it's a total bummer that they can't come, but it's exciting that like this is the first year that we're going to be shown on prime time on NBC, and that like they're finally going to like show more of the Paralympic Games. So hopefully like my family and friends and like you can watch. So I'm excited.
Awesome. So this is the last question. I'm going to keep it short. This is what I usually end off the interview with, is like, okay, what advice would you give to people who are watching this interview? How can they pursue their aspirations and kind of overcome any obstacles that stand in their way?
That's a good question. It seems like such an easy question to answer, but it's a loaded one, right? You're kind of like, okay, how do I word it?
Yeah, don't overthink it. It's super simple. Like, what advice would you have for other people?
I think my advice would just be to trust the process. Like, and I think I'm actually stealing that answer from a friend. I think she said that in an interview recently, but like regardless if you want to be a tennis pro, or you want to get that new job, or you want to get into medical school, law school, like some big lofty aspiration, like trust the process. Like nothing worth having comes overnight. Maybe sometimes it does, but that's just if you're really lucky. But I think just be willing to put the hard work in, be willing to deal with the days where things just don't feel great, and understand that like if you keep working, like success will come, and you just have to believe it. That's what I've been doing throughout my career, and kind of like my answer to what are my expectations in Tokyo. Like I've trusted that I put the work in. I trust that I am prepared. I have all the tools. I just have to do it now. So I think if you just trust yourself and trust the process, you'll get where you want to go.
That was a perfect answer. Thank you so much. So those are all the questions I had, but okay, good luck in Tokyo, and I'm sure you're going to do great. Like you put in the hard work. Now it's the easy part.
I just got to do it.
Now you just got to do it.
Thank you so much. It was nice to meet you.
Same here. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.